Hi, this is Joanne Dennison, CMP, and welcome to another, what do we call these again? Edition, I guess, of Sit in the Attendees Chair. Be good if I knew these things when I'm the host, right? Mine. Anyway, so glad to have you either for the first time or if you have listened to some of them previously, glad to have you back. And on a side note, up until recently, we were only on YouTube, and my troopers have worked very hard to get us up on other platforms. So now you can do something else while you're listening to it, because I know for a lot of you that was the hard thing is that you couldn't do it. Which platforms? I don't know. Kelly and Pauline, what platforms?
We are on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Podbean, which is an app. We also have our website, sitintheattendeeschair.podbeam.com. And I think that's it. We're working towards Spotify, so, check on that soon. But yeah.
And thank you, both of you, because I know you've all been working on how to get these up and everything. And not all of them are up on all platforms yet. So you can find all of them still on the YouTube channel, but you can find some of them up on the others. So hopefully that helps some of you and will encourage some of you to listen in the future, because we always love having you here. Today I'm super excited because we have a guest in the actual podcast studio, and it took us a lot of emails and texts to get this set up, but I am pleased to introduce you to Christina Zara.
Yes.
Oh, good. We were going back and forth. Zara. I was trying to get it right. Zara, CMP. So, and that's actually how we met, but that's a whole nother story. CMM. And we're going to be talking about a lot of things today. Her road to being in the position she's in right now, and a meeting that she was involved in this past week. And also, we'll save the end for when we get there. So anyway, welcome, Christina.
Thank you. So happy to be here and in this lovely town of Boston and this cold weather. Getting back to Orlando tomorrow. So,
but it's 62 here today. I know
it's like nice here.
Oh yeah. Florida considers 62 cold, and we're going, wow, second week of November, and it's 62, and it's sunny, and it's wonderful.
But it was great seeing the changing of the leaves on the way.
Yeah, you got a nice
view
of
that. So yeah, it's just been a really great week. So, but I'm ready. It's time to go home.
You're done. You're done. Once you're done with us, you're done. Exactly. Totally understand that. So, as I mentioned to you before, one of the things when we have planners on is we do this thing about on the road to becoming a meeting planner. On my way to becoming a meeting planner would be better, because it's such a meandering route for so many people. Yesterday, I actually had the privilege of being a guest in a class at Drexel, thanks to Devin and Paul O'Neill. And it was very interesting because they were freshmen, and they're in an intro to hospitality, and they're spending this week talking about meetings and events and how you become a planner and everything like that. And I said, first of all, you need to know that most of us above a certain age, probably at least 40, maybe even 35, we have degrees in all kinds of things, and we just ended up there because it's just not a direct path for most people. So tell us about your meandering way to becoming a meeting planner.
That's exactly.
Oh. Sorry. It's all about him. It's all about him. Sorry. Got carried away there. Well, apparently we're going to start with
Steve the Great, who's looking forward to this episode of this podcast. So go get Mom and them, tell them put their ears on, listen up.
Okay. And
hi, Kelly here. Very excited for this episode.
And Pauline, hi.
There we go. We got part of the troopers here in person. So sorry, didn't mean to forget. I got so excited Christina was here, that, who I haven't seen in
Oh my gosh, years.
Almost 2 years. January will be 2 years.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah.
Well, we've really actually only seen each other once.
You haven't aged a bit. You look great.
You too. I know. We're good. If we can make it through the past 2 years, we can make it through anything, right?
Oh, isn't that the truth?
So actually, why don't we tell the story about how we met? You want to start it, or you want me to start it? Go ahead.
So, with the CMP, you have to get your accreditation. You got to get your education, and I was just going through some opportunities for that. It was coming up on the cusp of recertification, and I saw this awesome opportunity. It was CMP semester at sea, which I love to travel, and I thought, well, this will be great. I'll just combine my two loves, meeting planning and traveling and cruising. So, and that was you. You were my instructor, and it was just a fabulous time, and I got 10 points toward my CMP, which is wonderful. And
on a cruise
treasure.
ship, eating great
on a cruise
food,
ship, having amazing food and amazing experiences, and meeting some really, really interesting people. So
that was a
class.
diverse group.
We
in
were
that.
very diverse. It was an amazing class. It was a lot of fun, and they really took care of us. So shout out to Celebrity Cruises. You guys do it right.
Absolutely. Lacey and Lisa and Shayna, all of them. And many of you have heard me talk about, the CMP at sea and me not being a ship person and how that trip actually converted me. But I was impressed because Christina already had her CMP and her CMM, which I tried not to let intimidate me. And, to me, anyone who chooses to come to any of my classes who already has their CMP, I think that says a lot about them. And I consider it a huge compliment that not that that's what it's about, but the fact that they still come back and, catch up and learn what someone else says or, what's changed. And so, yeah, that's how we got to know each other was actually we were standing getting ready to board.
That's right.
When we met. So,
right.
Hopefully there'll be a CMP at sea in 2022. There's some conversations about it. It hasn't fallen into place, but hopefully there will be, and hopefully I will see some of you on it too.
Yeah, and I highly, highly recommend it. Whether you have your CMP or you're seeking it, it's a fantastic opportunity.
And we got to do so many cool things
Very cool.
And I was insistent on that. I'm like, oh, no, this isn't going to just be a little fam trip. We need to know how this ship works.
Yes, it was great, the behind the scene tour. And
sustainability, and then the officers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even the room that they had us in, we were on the upper level.
Yep.
And it was just completely glass.
Yep.
It was a little distracting at times. I was like, I can't sit near the window because I'm just going to be look at the sea.
Yeah. And then a ship would suddenly come into the picture. Another ship. You see my head go.
Yeah, she could see before everybody. She's facing us, and then she'd just stop and mid-sentence and just kind of get this glazed look. We're like, what's happening?
You're just looking at the ocean and the sky, and suddenly there's this very large ship out there.
She's like, there's a very large ship out there. And then we'd pick it right back up. It was a lot of fun.
But yeah, highly, highly recommend it. And Celebrity, along with the education that I gave, Celebrity did a really good job of giving us opportunities to understand safety and risk management and crisis and sustainability and things and how that all works.
Great. We got to chat with the captain.
Yeah.
And
and his officers, only anyone remembers the captain.
It was so dynamic. He was great. But I remember somebody asking, like, when an emergency does happen, what is the most difficult part of managing that? And he said it was the passengers because they feel like they know more than the crew. And they had one instance, I think it was a fire alarm went off, and they had a fireman, a retired fireman. He was like, follow me, I know what I'm doing. And everybody just assumed because he gave those credentials, they started to follow him in the wrong direction. Oh. And they're like, stop listening to each other. We've got this.
Yep.
And I think that is a good message, and it applies to event planning.
Absolutely.
Very much.
Absolutely.
So attendees will do the same thing to us on site. You're like, what are you doing? I know what I'm doing. I'm the professional. Let me do my job and help you.
And sometimes that means turning it over to the venue staff too.
That's
because
right.
And actually this class I was visiting yesterday for Drexel, we talked about that because we talked sadly about what happened over the weekend. This is a couple days after the horrible concert
Oh, yes.
fiasco, catastrophe in Houston. And it was very interesting to get their insight. But, I talked about that and I said, because the professor said to me, what is one of the biggest things you would want them to take ahead? And I said, a risk assessment.
Correct.
And I said, in crisis management. And I explained how the two were different. Risk was the possibility or the probability, and crisis was it's happening, people. And I said, when you go into a venue, one of the things you should ask when you're doing the site tour is, what is your, crisis plan? And because in a lot of facilities, they do not want you to call 911. They do not want to call you. You call one number to your contact in the hotel, and they get the help there. And before you think, oh, well, that's wasting a call, they know their building better than you ever will. And if everyone picks up their cell phone and calls 911, I heard a story 20 years ago even about, there ended up being 10 ambulances lined up outside for one person. And that was just resources wasted on 1,000 levels. Plus,
Absolutely.
they're not coming to main doors. They're coming to, staff back of the house doors. We don't know where those are. We don't know the numbering. We don't know the lettering. So you call your contact at the venue and say, we have this happening. We need an ambulance. We need whatever. They will contact, because they could quickly say, go to door, 5A. And, the fire departments have worked with the venues to understand what the numbering and lettering system is. So this is going to be it's a very sad situation. I mean, it is just a horrible situation. But from our standpoint in the event industry, I think we really need to look at this to see, they're looking at the venue, they're
Yes.
looking at Live Nation,
Oh, yeah.
which is probably the biggest
Oh,
concert,
it is. It is the only.
producer. I kind of
Yeah.
was thinking that too.
They have the monopoly for sure.
Yeah, and the performer himself, and now the performers, I saw where Drake was supposed to be a surprise guest, and he's being sued in these now and everything. But I got a lot of insight talking to these students yesterday, because one of them, and he was so articulate about it, I was so impressed. He said, this has got to stop. He said, you go to these concerts. Okay, I guess I haven't been to a concert in a while, or at least these festival concerts, because he's going, there needs to be, areas divided, and there needs to be where you pay more to be up front of the stage. And I'm thinking, wow, they don't do that? When did they stop doing that? Because I've never been to a concert that isn't you pay more to be on the stage in the wings. And so what he was saying is, all these festivals, it's pay one price, $170. And so people just push and push and push and push. And he said he and two of his friends were at one of the big ones in the past couple months, and they left because they just felt it was too dangerous. He said someone was flicking cigarettes, ashes on him to get him out of his way. And he's like, this is ridiculous. And I said, it used to be concerts, you did do that. And there were very clear divisions, and there was security on each of those to make sure people didn't go into it that hadn't paid for that ticket. So I didn't realize that so many concerts, I guess these are the ones they label the festivals. There aren't chairs, there aren't anything. It's just, as he said, it's a big mosh pit is what it turns
the main
into.
reason I don't go to them. I'm a little scared, honestly, just because of the videos I've seen of how unorganized and crazy it can get.
Yeah. I mean, if
That's very
security,
wise of you.
yeah. I mean,
Stay
if
away.
you go to something that has
Yes.
designated seats and security. So it's going to be interesting because we, of course, talked about the Mandalay Bay. I should call it that. I know they prefer we don't. But anyway, the one that happened in Las Vegas a few years ago, of course, that one had its own weird thing going because fleeing from the danger was almost impossible in some ways. But, we need to think about things like that. So, okay. Now that we've talked about it, but it is a case to follow, just like if you didn't follow some of the things that came out of, the Las Vegas situation. One of the students said something about, because they said, oh, everything's going to change. And I said, but we would have thought that after Las Vegas.
Yeah, exactly.
And I said, things didn't change. I said, look at the 2003 horrible club fire in Rhode Island, where the doors were locked and the pyrotechnics went off. And one of the students said, I thought locked doors were banned in the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire, which was like in the 19-teens. And I said, for workplaces. But I said, there's the Cotton Grove? Cotton Grove. That's one. I think it's in Boston. Anyway, there's a history of them where we would think that everything would change after it, and it doesn't. So we at least need to do the right things as we're planning our events.
100%. Getting with your security team and discussing with them the protocols is critical. It's
Absolutely.
critical.
Absolutely.
Should be high at the list.
Okay, so now that we've covered all, you see how we digress at
I
times.
love
Or we don't digress, we just jump all over
just
the
go,
place.
"Oh,
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
good.
what
I'm
about
loving it.
that?
Yeah, that's good.
So, kind of like a career.
Yeah.
So, now we've explained how we met. Let's talk about how you got here.
So basically, much like everyone else, just kind of fell into it. There was a need at the company that I was working for. The young lady had left. They asked me to come in, and I said no. So they were like, well,
What were you there for originally? What were you doing?
I was doing business intelligence. I was working in the business intelligence. And
I'm sorry. What is business intelligence?
I was actually
it seems like
developing.
an oxymoron.
I was
but-
developing their software.
Oh,
so
okay.
it was the sales folks, when they would go out the reporting, how they would see that, how they could quickly share that with their clients and that kind
Got
of thing.
it.
So I was building that.
So
whole
that's like what
interface.
your degrees are in?
Well, yes. And so I actually was training on that, and they had this series where you would go to each of the regions throughout the United States, and I would get on stage and I would talk about, here's what's coming. It's called Mile Markers, and this is what it looks like. And I guess I impressed the two people that kind of were the head of sales and also, incidentally, event planning. So they were like, we need to get this young lady on our team. So when this position became available, straight away, they were like, come to us. And I thought, event planning, that's not me. That's not what my expertise is in. What are you talking about? So I passed on it. But they asked me to sit in the interviews to select the right person, which I thought that was really interesting. And so I did. And the more they talked about it, I was like, this is kind of something that I want to do. So
Do you think they did that deliberately to get you to...
I don't know, because they were just, and she was wonderful, and I'm sorry, but they were just about to make an offer, and I was like, hey, can we talk? So we went outside, and I was like, I kind of want it. And it was so cute, because my boss at the time, she's like, you're killing me. I'm like, I'm so sorry. She's like, okay, you can have it, but really? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. I do want it. But everybody was laughing at me. I remember my friends in the company like, oh, my wife's birthday is coming up. Can you plan her party? And it just became this kind of snarky. And that was my first introduction of, And then I had another executive say, I'm really interested that you decided to take that career choice. You could do so much more. And yes, and that was the beginning. And I love it. I absolutely love what I do. I get a kick out of it. When I finish an event, I look back on that accomplishment. It's everything. To run an event, to be an event professional, I could easily, and I know a lot of people say this and feel this way, I could easily step into a CEO role because it's all encompassing. Mm-hmm. It is everything, and it all starts on a sheet of paper, and then it manifests to a real live actionable event where people, no matter what they touch, taste, see, I've provided all of that. I've selected the venue that they're going to. I selected the meal they're going to eat. If they want a Diet Coke, I put it there. Not me physically, but
you made sure they got
it was on a work
it.
order. It was on a work order that it should be delivered at this time. And it's funny because people don't really truly understand what it is we do or the value that we bring to an organization. And I find that a massive tragedy. It's a travesty that they don't know, that they don't take really the time, because when you're hiring an unprofessional to do a job that requires a professional, you are wasting so much money, and you don't know it because you don't know what to look for. You don't know what that ROI looks like. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, and you don't know what to look for, and you don't know what the pitfalls are, or how a professional can actually contribute to your bottom line and culture, you're missing the mark. And there's a lot of companies out there that are missing the mark, and it's sad.
And I think a lot of times, I was talking with someone the other day, they think, oh, well, the hotel does all that. Mm-hmm. You just, send an email, sign a contract, mm-hmm. and the hotel, and I guess there are some people who let them, but most of us...
You're losing a lot of money. I can guarantee it.
Losing a lot, right, both from lack of ROI, mm-hmm. because every decision has been thought out.
Correct.
And, one of the things, I mean, Steve pointed out to me, we all know... Great. We're all detail oriented. We all say that, and I always say, please don't put it on your resume, because if you're in this field, that's assumed. And yeah, but the first event he and I did together years ago was a conference, and I remember it blew him away that I insisted that there had to be a trash basket. Mm-hmm. by the registration table. I mean, I was
They don't think to do that. That's a real thing.
And that's why and we were using sticky because it was a one-day conference, so a sticky name tag was appropriate, plus budget was very tight and everything. And people wonder how all that trash ends up on the tables and on the floors from name tags. It's because there's no trash. Exactly.
And if you expect your venue to know that, you're off the mark.
Yeah.
They're not going to, and I love when you see these planners go, well, where's it? You would think with that. Well, no, you have to think for your event, and you have to ensure you're thinking on all levels for everybody, your vendors, everyone, security, everyone. So yeah, it's a tremendous undertaking to do if done properly.
And the details that everyone makes fun of us for is what makes the difference between an okay, a good, a great, and a stellar event. Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, keep going.
So that was it. So that really started my career. I was there for a very long time. It was a wonderful company to work for. They were very much investing in leadership. That was very important to them. We even had to go out in the woods with a popsicle stick and get yourself from point A to point. I don't know what that has to do with leadership, these wilderness outing things, but we did it. Stayed the night by myself in the woods in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, no.
And the whole time I'm thinking, this is helping me how, but it was fun.
We could do this inside a building, and I can show you how to do it with the right people. Yes.
Me starting my own fire and cooking my own food. I don't know how this equates to better management, but I'm going to trust the process. I was very fortunate to learn under that tutelage. So I was able to carry that with me throughout my career, because being a good leader as an event planner also critically important, and a different skill set. Because your event managers and planners are very much executives in their own right. They run their program. You have to give them the flexibility and the freedom to do it. So when you are on site with one of your employees, they are in charge. And that's not easy for a lot of people when they're in a leadership role, because I'm the leader. Why aren't people coming to me? I need these people with shiny name tags talking to me. Why are they talking to you? And that's an attitude that has to be set aside when you are managing and directing event professionals. That's not always easy to do, especially because we are in control. We're control freaks. That's at the heart. We're control freaks. We are. Yeah, there's just no getting around that.
Least of our meetings and events. We try on everything else.
Exactly. It's a requirement. And so, and how often I know at Thanksgiving, I'm like, I have to take charge. I'm going to make sure the casserole goes here, the turkey goes here. You need to cut it a certain way. I was like, get out of my kitchen, right? But we just naturally take control. So when you're in that position where you're leading and managing somebody who you have to give them that control, and it's very difficult. Sometimes it can be very difficult. But it's critically important to grow and nourish your employees the right way, and you have to let them handle it.
You do. You have to believe that you chose the professionals, and they know. I think that's true with any position. If you do not trust, like one of the workshops I do sometimes is on delegation, and I'm like, did you hire these people?
Yeah.
If you hired these people, you need to have a little faith that you hired the right people and let them do their job.
Absolutely.
Hiring good people and getting in their way is, especially right now in the middle of the Great Resignation. Is, that's a huge thing. Let people pick good people that can do the job, give them the support, the training, whatever it is, the resources they need, and let them do their job.
The Great Resignation, glad that you brought that up. So coming off of a large event, the largest in North America so far in 2021, 6,300 attendees came to our conference.
In Boston, at the BCEC.
At the BCEC, great team, fantastic team. Thank you for everything, you guys. It was wonderful. But the impact that COVID had, I wasn't prepared for.
Okay.
We are going to
Everyone's dying to hear this,
Yeah, we are going to have to plan differently.
Okay.
Long gone are the days of the 2-hour turnover room, right? Where you have a certain room set up, you have everything for a U shape, and then in the morning, something as simple as a conference for the same number of people takes an extraordinary amount of time.
Because they're doing extra cleaning, or because
they don't have the staff.
They don't have the staff. Everyone's hurting on staff. Yep.
And when you call for something that, because we always get the attendees are like, I need 5 lavaliers. You get there, I actually asked for 6. You didn't, but we'll get you the extra one. It takes a little bit longer than it normally does. I don't know how long that will last, I guess, as long as the Great Resignation continues. But I learned there has to be a smarter way. Now, also, we were very behind the gun because in August, we weren't sure if we were still going live or we were going virtual. It was just very much back and forth. And when you work for an
Delta
association.
had really come up at that point.
Right. And you've got the board and everybody's weighing in. So when we did decide to go live, we were very, very much behind the 8 ball. And even then, a lot of our affiliates we're not sure if we're coming. And we work a lot with universities, and they're very careful with their students. So they were, we're not coming. We can't be live. We have to have, if we are live, we have to have a certain standard for social distancing, which the city of Boston does not currently impose.
Right.
So that was very interesting to work with them. And then closer to the event, it was this onslaught. We're all coming. So literally for 2 weeks, it felt like I was working 16-hour days getting all of the banquet event orders all together for everything. And it was a big show up, big show out. I've just worked so hard for it. So I wasn't really truly aware of what I was asking my vendors in terms of room turnover. There were a lot of them, a lot. But I was just so concerned with getting them a room, giving them the space. Although this person is in it until noon, they're coming in at 5. That's going to give them plenty of time to set up. No, it was very, very difficult, and it really took its toll on their staff and on us. And when you're behind like that, everything kind of gets off kilter. But the most amazing thing was their willingness for the people that did show up, how they worked and gelled together to make it happen. The attendees were none the wiser. And because this podcast is sitting in the attendee's chair, that was so impressive. It was so impressive to see. And I was so proud of that because what we asked them to do could have easily been avoided had I had more time and forethought to know that we were going to be a little understaffed. We didn't have either. And the way that they just nailed it was so impressive. It was so impressive because they, we're like ducks. We're paddling really hard, but we're just gliding on top of the water to most people. So they were none the wiser. They had no idea of just the chaos that was in that room almost minutes before they came in.
Wow.
It was very impressive. But I feel like we have an opportunity to plan better. I know I will. I know in my next event when that comes up, I will be really taking those turnovers into consideration and the setups and the equipment that are in the rooms, the risers, those kind of things. That will all play into just a better plan and make it a little more seamless and easy for my vendors because they're your team, they're your partners.
Well, and we
not
want
your
to take
enemy.
care of them. The reason that
Absolutely.
one of the reasons that hospitality venues and whether they be restaurants, convention centers, hotels are so short-staffed is because of the way they're treated, either by their own company or by those of us who work with them. So we need to take care, and we need to always remember we're all on the same side.
That's right.
Are you trying to say something? I think you are.
Well, I don't know. Is it appropriate to ask your venue about staffing before you?
Yes, very much so.
schedule the
Yeah, they
event?
need to be transparent with you too, and that is something that I would encourage. If they're and they were very transparent before we got there to say, if you could just kind of send a general message that we are a tad understaffed, and it would be really great just to get the people who are requesting things of us, let them know that, to be a little bit more patient than normal. And although I had received that message, it just didn't. It's just kind of there, and then when you see it, it's a totally different matter.
Well, and I don't think any of us would ever think of 5 hours unless you're tearing down or building up a general session to not be enough time to
Correct.
turn a room.
Right.
I mean,
correct.
because these staffs tend to be miracle workers in how they can turn
It
a
was the
room.
amount of rooms that we had too.
Yeah.
Because we had a lot. Everybody was
Well, it's a
so
convention center, so that
excited.
makes sense.
Yes. They were so excited to be there and so excited to meet in person.
Yep.
So they were like, well, this is an opportunity for our team now to get together and have a board meeting or a reception or
So all the pop-up
something.
meetings that came
All
up.
the pop-up meetings. That's what it was. It was mostly that because it's not a long time. Well, it is a long time, 5 hours. That's plenty of time. But when you're doing that multiple times
Yeah.
throughout and on a very small staff, and even like getting our signage and things in place, that was all just really delayed, unfortunately. But we were very nice to the people that showed up because they were there, they were doing the work, and you really can't get angry with them because they're the ones that are making this happen for you.
And that's one of the messages that they've been trying to get out is don't beat on the people who are there.
No.
They're the ones, they're under so much pressure already themselves, and they have chosen to be there.
Yeah.
And before we use the term, as Christina said, the meeting was in Boston, and I said BCEC. It's the Boston Convention and Exhibition Center, which is over in the Seaport District. So it is. It's a fascinating architectural, because it's one of the few without outdoor lighting in on the trade show floors too, which is pretty cool.
It's beautiful.
It's and Lawn on D with the swings
Lawn on
and
D is
everything.
Great, yeah.
But big
Had we known the weather was better, we might have used that.
Yeah.
But Boston in November, you just don't know what you're going to get.
No. Well, and the week before, we had the nor'easter come through, which was just, really crazy. But yeah, big shout out to everyone, to all the staff.
Absolutely.
A lot of you who are listening are on the venue side or some other supplier side, and please, I hope we always appreciate you, but the fact that a lot of you are doing triple and quadruple. I was reading the other day, a staff of 6, one leaves 5, and how it just keeps adding to. People are like, I can't do 5 people's work, and then someone else leaves, and now the 4 people that are left are doing, and it just keeps snowballing. Mm-hmm. So big shout out to all of you who are supporting and helping these things somehow work. So very cool. So that's an interesting, when you said, taking COVID into, I was thinking more, the more traditional COVID things, but that's
it's a total,
yeah.
Coming fresh off the event. And it's funny because, I know IMAX and everything else is coming up. And
it's this week, yeah.
Yeah. And my CFO was like, do you want to go to that? And I said, well, actually, no, because we're still kind of on virtual and really, hybrid and that kind of thing. And it's like the conversation has to now evolve beyond that.
Yeah.
It's got to evolve beyond that. So, and I think that's the next thing that's really for us to focus on. What does it look like when we do come back? What can we do to make it better for our attendees and, more importantly, our partners? Because they're the ones that need our support. And something as simple as a room change can make a huge difference on that side. Mm-hmm. Huge. Because we had managers down there.
Oh, I'm sure.
We had general managers.
Probably salespeople, everything.
Oh, yeah. But they
all
got
hands
it
on
done.
deck.
They got it done. And I'm not talking just about BCs. It was the hotels, too, that we used. But that's what was impressive, though, was to see just that passion for our industry has not wavered. It's not gone anywhere. The people who are committed to the hospitality industry and love it are still there, and they still love it.
Very.
Which is great.
That's it. So overall, the program went well. You were
no complaints. None. It was great.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It was wonderful, and to have that many people show was a little overwhelming in terms of
0 to 6,300 and
exactly.
And
3 months basically.
Well, and when did you start at the organization you're in now? You started after the pandemic started.
My year anniversary is November 4th.
Yeah, so you started
fresh.
In the middle. So you had you done any live events with them?
No, I did a virtual with them as a contractor last year. Mm-hmm. And then this year we weren't, like I said, we weren't quite sure, and then we just decided to do it. So so it was great because I was able to kind of puff out my peacock feathers a little bit and show off to be like, hey, you got a good one,
Yeah.
You made a good choice.
I don't look just good on paper,
yeah,
people.
Exactly, exactly. Right.
Or on a screen.
Right. Perfect.
That's very, very cool.
Yeah, it was really interesting, and I'm excited to get together and talk with people who've had the same experiences around the same time that I have, and talk with other planners about that too, to see.
So for any of you listening, you'll definitely want to reach out to Christina. You can find her on LinkedIn, and we're going to give you more information, but you heard her. She would love to talk to other people, and I'm sure some of you who have ones coming up, because I know a number of you have them coming up at the beginning of 2022 where they were pushed off, some of them 2 years. So she would be a great person to run it by and, compare notes and such. So
send me a DM, as the young kids say.
Yeah. So I'm really excited. I mean, obviously, I like and respect Christina a great deal, but one of the reasons that, one of the many reasons that she is our guest today is I'm thrilled to say, I'm thrilled for her, I'm thrilled for our industry, that she has just finished a book about careers in the industry, on the planning side specifically. And the book is called All Access. And the tagline says, an event professional's guide to getting the respect. Come on, you know you want that. Promotion, another thing you're probably looking for, and salary they deserve. And for those of you, and most of you do know me pretty well by now, for one reason or another, you know she's singing my song right there because I feel so strongly about all of them. So we wanted to talk to her about the book and why she wrote it, what's in it, etc. So first of all, when's the book coming out? So because that's going to be the first thing people are going to
right. It'll be available on December 10th. On the Friday. It'll be categorized in the horror section.
I can see that.
Yeah. From you having read it, you're kind of like, I can see that being in the horror section.
On Amazon?
Yes, on Amazon. It'll be on all of the platforms. You both know those better than I do. I have a publisher for that, so I'm trusting them to be like, okay, and they're telling me that's when it's going to come out. It was supposed to come out earlier, however, with the amount of work it took to make this past event happen, it kind of got shelved a little bit because you had to prioritize. So, but I am excited. I'm very excited about it, and I'm thrilled that you wrote the foreword. Thank you very much, Joanne.
Yes, I did. That's how I got drawn into this process. She goes, hey, I'm writing a book. I'm like, good for you. I still haven't done that. And she's like, would you consider reading it and writing the foreword? And I was like, I remember thinking, oh, am I going to end up in this situation where...
No, I also said you are free to say no.
And I know, you said that, but I also know, honestly, that a lot of forwards are written by people who never read the book, which I will never do. So don't ask me to do that for you. But it was a great book. So what drove you to write this book?
Honestly, it was in the very beginning.
Did you get pissed off one day?
No, yeah. I was just writing in my diary, and it was just getting it out on paper can be very cathartic.
Yep.
Right? So, and I just kept I got this whim, and I just kept writing and writing and writing, and I'm just getting it out, and I'm getting it out. And I'm thinking, it doesn't have to be like this. It doesn't have to be like this. And I've gotten to a pinnacle in my career, and I've taken steps that I've developed over my time in the industry that have worked for me. And I just really wanted to share that because I love this industry. I can't say it enough. And we can all sit in a room with MPI and the various other associations and say, we are great. We do great things. When we meet, we change the world. There are no truer words. But that's as far as that message is going. It's in those four walls. And
You're preaching to the choir.
We all know we're great. How come they don't know we're great?
Yeah.
What are we not doing? And really it's a call to action, a grassroots effort of how we as planners can do little things each day to just sing our praise and one day get that seat at the table, because that's what we're truly missing. We're really missing, and by companies and clients excluding the planner from the table, they're missing out too. But they don't know how, because they think we're just there to get them coffee and we're there to get them Danish.
We're order takers.
We're order
and
takers.
A lot of their...
And that's so far beyond what our actual talents and what actually lays within us. So it's really just, let's start doing it for ourselves. Let's start reassuring and consistently getting the message out of what it is we actually do, how we actually contribute, and let's do it in a professional way, speaking their language, with the bullet points, talking money, because we're also just looked at as, well, that's just an expense. And one of the first things that happens in a recession is they start cutting back on events. Horrible. It has been proven over and over, when you meet face to face, you're setting a culture, you're setting a standard, you're bringing people together, you are changing things. So for them to discount that so easily and just assume that that's not really that important to their bottom line, that's just a travesty. So it just feels to me, as I was writing and getting these stories out, and it's jam-packed full of stories that I've heard from people over the years. There's some stories for myself. They are truly unbelievable.
I enjoyed the stories.
You enjoyed the stories,
I found myself
okay.
laughing
I don't
at
know
some
if
of them.
enjoying is the word.
Blown
I found
away,
them
jaw
entertaining
dropping on the
because
floor.
what? Yes.
And they're all 100% true. All
Wow.
100% true. Yeah, and
That's
it's just
shocking.
an interesting. It's just funny to me how that can actually. It's
Some
right?
of them is like you read and it's like, okay, no, that can't happen. Wait, there's more. Like,
There's this one story in particular. Sorry to interrupt. I just remember it made my blood boil almost because I'm like, I haven't been in a situation like that, but just hearing you tell a story, it was one with Rhonda moving you out of your office. But
Yeah.
That one I was like, oh my
that was a true
gosh.
story. Yeah,
But-
yeah, that happened. And the way that she behaved when she was on that site inspection was just,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? Like, this
But
is
why
not a
don't you give
vacation.
some of the,
Yes, okay, so
because
sorry,
now
yeah.
they're going to be like, wait,
Sorry.
whoa,
Well, they
we're going
have
to
to
buy
read
the
the
book.
book.
But in the meantime, tell us what the heck you're talking
That
about.
was a lady that I worked for. She was my temporary boss for a very short period of time, thank goodness. But she came in and did not quite understand why I had an office. And my title at the time was only manager. So she took it upon herself to remove me from my office and put me in a cubicle over a weekend. So I come in on Monday morning
Forgot
and
this one,
my
yep.
office is gone. And I'm on the phone talking about where we're going for incentive trips right next to customer service. Customer service, they are tied to their desk. They pretty much are handcuffed there. And you sit there, you have a designated break, you have a designated lunch, you are required to work this amount of time, and you're taking calls all day. And I'm on the phone talking about how the salespeople are going to Aruba.
Yeah.
That's not a good connection. That doesn't make sense
Talk
to me.
about doing damage to company culture.
Or, right, absolutely. Or I'm talking about how we're going to bring in a Grammy Award-winning act and the pricing on that for our event. And really felt uncomfortable doing so.
Because they're being paid maybe $15 an hour or something to work this call line.
But what Rhonda did not know was I had been with the company for a very long time, and I was building my army. And when I say that, that's very much in the book about the importance of your coworkers, the people who are going to speak about you, you when you are not in the room. When other people are saying, I wouldn't have done that. I don't like Diet Coke. I don't know why we had so much at it, just as an example at the event. Then you have someone there to say,
girl.
you know what? Then there was somebody there to stand up for you when you can't do it yourself. That's your army.
Yep.
Well, her boss happened to be a really stellar member of my army, and I just explained to him, this is exactly what I said. I'm sitting next here. This doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel comfortable. I need autonomy. I need to have a space where I can operate best for you. So over a weekend, he moved me into the office and didn't tell her. So she comes in on Monday, literally stands in my door and says, how did this happen? And I was like, because I have an army and I kind of know what I'm doing and I kind of need it. But if you want to have a conversation with somebody about it, I suggest you go talk to your boss. And that felt really good.
yeah.
It felt good. And she was gone there very short after. But, we just, again, it gets back to we just shouldn't have to fight that hard to do our job.
And just the fact that you said you were just a manager, first of all, the titles are so different in different organizations.
Yes.
Sometimes
Yes.
a manager
Coordinator.
outranks a director, and sometimes a director outranks a manager and everything. But it's like, it shouldn't be really about the title.
No, it's about the work. And
Yeah.
Right. And my title didn't matter, but it was only directors had offices, and that's what she was operating from. She was a director, therefore I shouldn't be in an office. It was just one of those, yeah. And you're like, really? Get out of my way so I can do my work.
And not only
Just get out
that,
of my way.
and Steve laughs at me when I do this, but
Steve the Great.
yeah, okay,
yes, of
whatever.
course.
Steve the Great. It pisses me off. It was another woman.
I have to agree with you there.
I mean, do I believe your army should be all women? Absolutely
No,
not.
no.
I've always had more men in my army than women. I've worked well with men from the beginning of my career, and that's helped. But for a woman who's in especially a decision-making role, a leadership position, to do something so vile
Yeah,
to another
yeah.
woman,
I agree.
it just, I get ticked off about it all the time. Like, you open the door and you bring others with you if they're qualified and you do the job. You do not rip them down,
I agree, 100%.
and
100%. And then she had the opportunity when she found out we were going on a site inspection. She's, well, I got to go. Okay.
because I'm all this.
Well, I'm your boss now, so therefore I have to go. And she's under the impression that we're going to go on a drinking binge And, she's just yupping it up and yakking away and having a great day. And, her behavior was just atrocious. Sitting on beds as we're going through the site inspection, rubbing her feet, taking off her shoes and rubbing her feet in the lobby, complaining the entire time.
That's not professional on any level.
And I'm just... She's like, are all site inspections like this? I'm like, yeah, because they're not vacation.
Yeah.
We're here working. I can walk into the hotel lobby and know in 2 seconds if this is going to work for me or not. But that's what we do from the moment you get off the flight, for the moment you touch back down. If you're on a site inspection, you should be moving the entire time.
Yep. And you're looking at everything from how did I get from the airport to the hotel and how did that work? And
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
it's a very, very tough day. It's one thing if you're like on a fam trip, that might be a
That's
little more relaxed.
a lot different,
But when
yeah.
you're into, am I actually going to use this for this particular meeting, it definitely ramps up
That's
in terms of
exactly right.
intensity.
Yes, exactly. When she was not prepared for that at all, in any way, shape, or form. And
Nobody-
It just, nobody really outside is. But it just lends itself to, it's just head shaking. It can be so head shaking. So I started writing a diary, and then it developed into something quite different and extraordinary. And I didn't think I had anything. I was just going to kind of table it until I asked you to write the forward. And when you did, I was so impressed that I was like, oh, maybe I have something here. So then I decided to go forward. So had you said no, it wouldn't have gone any further.
Oh, goodness.
That's true.
I'm glad. I took it very seriously. I remember that because it took me a couple of weeks to get to read it. And then one Monday, I just blocked it out and said, I'm reading this today and I'm going to get back to her. And then I wrote the forward right away because I didn't want it to get pushed around, shoved around. And it was important to me. I think your message is phenomenal there. And I love the fact for when you start to read the book, it's interesting, depending on what age you are, you may react differently to the beginning of the book because
Yeah, I
it
think
starts
so.
in the 1960s or
It does,
50s?
60s.
60s. And no, I wasn't working in the 1960s. But Steve will probably tell you I was. But then he's not great if he's telling me I was working in the 60s. So. But it gives you a lot of insight on women in the work world, the professional work world as a whole. And also a number of times I've brought up that a lot of the people who have been in this industry a while, let's say 35 years or more, even maybe 30 or more, a lot of them started out, depending on what decade they started out in, as secretaries or admins or EAs, and they evolved into meeting planners. Unfortunately, this has come back to bite a lot of people because a lot of them started their professional career before they had a chance or didn't even have a chance to go to college. And as they get in these corporations, and then the corporations go, no, we're not going to promote you because you have to have a degree. And I've seen a number of meeting planners struggle with that. They have 20, 25, 30 years of experience, and they can't be promoted because their organization has decided everyone has to have at least a college degree and usually a bachelor's, not even an associate's.
Yeah.
So that's really tough if you started working at 18, 19, and you proved yourself and you're phenomenal, but you can't do it. So the book actually opens with
My aunt.
your aunt.
Yeah, and she's working as a secretary. That's what they were called.
1960s,
then. She's secretary,
absolutely.
Exactly. And through all of the work and dictation and everything else she had to do, her boss was like, on Friday, we're going to have a cocktail reception for my clients, and you're going to throw it. And she did, and this happened numerous times in her
Remember,
career.
this is pre-technology, too. You think it takes a long time to get something set up now in a hurry?
Oh,
Try
yes.
it when you had to pick up the phone and call everyone.
Physically, yeah, that's crazy. And thinking it went off well, everybody had a fantastic time, and all she received was disdain, and it was very quite upset with her. So, and she's like, "What is my motivation here?" But that was also pretty much the humble beginnings of event planning.
Yep.
So that's very working against us as well, in that people are still looking at us as we are serving. We're there to serve them, right? We're there to make your coffee happen.
Well, and it's not a real career.
A lot of people think it's not a real career.
Absolutely. Well, I even think back. I remember the first time I saw meeting or event planner in a TV show or a movie. And ironically, it was The Apprentice, the very first season. their last task, the last 2 or 3 that were on,
Oh, yeah.
they were event planners for a golf outing, if I remember right. That was the first time I'd ever heard it mentioned on TV. I remember, sadly, the first time I ever saw it in the newspaper was when there was a plane crash off of Nova Scotia, and there were 3 meeting planners in there in the crash. And I remember thinking, I've never, ever seen this position referenced in the newspaper. Now, it's on TV shows. A lot of you know I'm a huge Hallmark movie. That's my, that's...
Oh, yeah, we're all meeting planners on the Hallmark
Yeah,
channel.
yeah. Well, at least they've grown up. I mean, up until about 4 years ago, they referred to them as party planners. Everyone was either a party planner or a wedding planner. Yeah. And at least now they talk about event planners. They actually do, they say things that make sense most of the time. And, but now, it's just changed in terms of this is a career. And that was one of the things I was trying to explain to this class yesterday is there was no career path. No. There's still not that many degrees in actual meeting and event planning. It's maybe a subspecialty of something or whatever. But Pauline, what was your favorite story in the book?
I don't know if it's my favorite because
your favorite one to hate.
Yes, that's probably the good one about the barbecue party for
the
producer. Of this person. Should I talk about? I don't know how much you want to give away.
That's fine.
This planner.
There's plenty more where this came from. We're not spoiling the whole book. I
promise. Organized the whole event, planned everything in a way that made sense from what you described. Yeah.
Well, the person was a professional.
Yeah,
but they were hired as an independent from their own company, right?
Correct.
And took into consideration safety and all that. But that wasn't to the taste of the person who was throwing the event the day before. So she had to change everything last minute, making everyone work overtime, and then it ended up probably not working as well as it would have if she organized it, right?
Correct.
And then ended up not getting paid because it was not up to the person's standard, even though he changed everything. And that
publicly embarrassed, yelled at during the event that you are not a professional. Yeah.
So it felt like, this person doesn't necessarily know what they're doing, but they think they're going to do better than the professional they hired. That's funny. Then why you do it yourself?
Right, exactly.
And then I don't know how that.
And then changing it, and then seeing the result of that, and then blaming the person who had it correct to begin with. Yeah.
That was the one that was like, wait, it gets worse. It gets worse. When does it stop?
It just kept compiling. Yeah. And it's hard as a planner to come back from something like that because we are satisfaction seekers. That's a big core part of who we are. Incredibly organized, incredibly have to be in control. And then we also want that satisfaction. We want to be told at the end of the day that we did a good job. So when something like that happens, it really was very difficult for Leslie to come back from that. Because
did she keep her own company?
She did. But we've talked so many times, and she still brings it up. It was just such a unique opportunity. It was 15 years ago, but it was such a unique opportunity, and it left a mark for her. Yeah. I mean, she has recovered. She's doing quite well, but it didn't have to happen,
And I think, having been an independent for years, the things you learn in business, because it doesn't dawn on you that people will be so horrible or mean or rude or unethical.
Yes,
and that, I didn't have anything happen on the scale that she did, but I can think of some. I got smarter.
Yeah.
But it's a big price to pay when you're an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Every mistake you make like that, because obviously she had to pay her staff and, all the time she put into it.
Oh, absolutely.
And you just go, it just doesn't even dawn on you some of the things people can do, Yeah. And I was way too trusting at the beginning.
Yeah. Me too, because I think that we are trusting, by nature, trusting people too. So I just didn't assume not to trust anyone else.
Yeah, you work with people all the time. You kind of have to trust a little bit.
If somebody to get something done, I'm just assuming that it's going to get done. And I've learned, no. Some follow-up is probably critical. So.
And things like letters of agreement, contracts, signed things.
Yeah.
Trust me, as an entrepreneur, I made that mistake a number of times, and it went fine until it didn't. Yes. But I guess that's what all of us learn in our career along the way. It's like, doesn't dawn on you that someone will set you up for failure and move documents or, you know, whatever
Take
it
your
is
office
they're
away,
doing.
or-
Yeah, take your office away. Come in. Whoa, I don't have an office anymore. Wow. That's,
I'm like walking to the door. What? What's this stuff? Oh, yeah, that was fun.
yeah.
So I'm laughing at it now just because it's so crazy, but
Yeah.
that must not have been fun at the time.
No, that was tough.
Yeah.
That was tough.
So what do you want people, you know, along with all the stories we're talking about, which I know have piqued your interest, and a lot of them you, the listeners, can certainly relate to. I'm thinking of different people on different stories that are going, yep, I had that boss. You know, but, you know, one of the other key things, and you mentioned this at the beginning, but I'd like you to talk about it more, is other than the, oh my God, I'm not the only one this has happened to type thing, what did you write the book for, and what can they get out of it?
So the book basically is just some guidelines and steps that I have followed and polished over the years that I've taken with me into any organization that I work with. I conduct myself in a certain way that enables me to be the best professional that I can for them, but then also in turn gives them the opportunity to learn exactly what I do contribute to the organization. And by doing that, I have elevated myself to an autonomous trusting role where I'm not micromanaged. Very, very rarely am I asked to show my work, as they say in math, right? It's more, you've got this, you've got the autonomy, we're following your direction. And I'm brought in more in the conversation. And that is primarily because of the steps outlined in the book. And these steps are very clear, they're very simple.
Can you give an example of one, please?
Being loud all the time. Like when you're reading an article and you think that it applies to something that your CEO needs to know, pass that article on to them. Make sure I'm aware of this. I'm learning this. I'm keeping my instrument tuned, and I'm sending you that information because I think this is important for us to consider for next year. You know, just little things like your survey results. When you get your survey results, swim in them. Like take them and roll up and get to bed in them. Like that is so much information. Now, I'm not talking food and temperature because that's crazy. But there's so much information there. Your attendees are telling you what they're expecting from you next time. That has to be...
Your ones from this past conference will be super interesting.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I know, I can't wait.
I mean, they haven't been to anything in 2 years either.
That's right.
And I mean, and they know that the world will be different going forward. Oh my gosh, that's going to be so interesting.
So for instance, we had one feedback where one speaker, far and above all others, got the best reviews. Everyone really enjoyed, who sat in that class, really enjoyed this person. So when we were having a product launch, you know, I'm in the elevator with my CEO and I'm like, hey, we're having a product launch. We're going to have to get that information out. Have you thought about bringing back Gary? He got the biggest results and people really love listening to this guy. So if we're talking about a new product that people are going to want to, you're going to need them to pay attention to the presentation. Why not bring the guy back that they love?
Yeah.
And he was like, whoa. Where did that come from? Yes, I'm doing it. So just being valuable and consistently sending that message. And it's going to feel annoying. It's going to feel like, oh, I'm really just tooting my horn here. But you can toot your horn without blowing it. That's a book that I read and I loved it.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. You can toot your own horn without blowing it.
You don't have to be the obnoxious person.
You don't have to be the obnoxious person, but periodically it doesn't hurt if you haven't talked with those people in a while to send the message out and copy your boss. Please, please, dear God, do that. Just make sure that they are constantly involved with the conversation. But you really need to get to your message above that person too. So that's just one of many. You know, being professional, being
ethical,
partnering, being ethical is a big thing with me. But there's such a fine line, and I've had so many conversations with my vendor friends over that because they want to spoil you, they want to give you the sweet, they want to bring you the coffee in the morning, and all of that is great. But it also contributes to our lack of respect that we get from our leadership, because it is noticed. If they're bringing you a latte in the morning, they can be like, oh, that's really cute. Your hotel people bring you lattes in the morning. That's awesome. And they can walk away. But if you really get to what they're thinking of that, it doesn't look well for us. So there's a time and place to be spoiled by our vendors. On site is not necessarily that time or place.
Unlike a lot of planners say, you know, you get your best room when you're on site working a meeting. You're never in the room.
I don't know what they're
You
talking
did-
about because I had a closet and and I worked very well out of my closet. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it just, it's like, no, you want to get the best room like when you're there with someone and you're
Correct,
actually
and
having
you're coming back,
fun.
and
Yes.
exactly. And so it's fine to be like mention to them, I'm coming back, and I'm going
Yep.
to be there. I don't have an issue at all with that, and I do that for my bosses too. If they're going on
Yep.
vacation, I know I have a contact there. I'm like, hey, good opportunity to make us, not just me. You look good too, but
Oh, yeah.
maybe float a little amenity to their room, and that
Yep.
kind of thing. It's really nice. And your army, take care of your army that way too.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
those people that are sticking up for you when you're not there, yes, there's lots of opportunities for us to do that in this industry, and I highly recommend it. But taking all of the perks for yourself is just a huge no-no for me. It's
Yes.
just a huge no-no for me. And making decisions based off how many hotel points you're going to get off of a contract, I have no other, that will make me lose respect for you faster.
Yes.
Faster than anything else. Because I've worked with people like that. Their conference
Yep.
doesn't fit. They know it doesn't fit, but those points just like, they look like steak to them. I don't know. And if you're a vegetarian, look carrot. I don't know. But they're like drooling over it, and I
Yeah.
want it, so I'm signing.
Well, I'm going to take my family next year. I've got, some of the stories over the years of fan
Yes,
trips
yes.
and points and
Yeah. So it's a fine line. It's very gray. I don't think there truly is a black and white here. I think it's a conversation you definitely need to have with your leadership, though, because if they do not have an ethics policy in place, you'll probably learn about that the hard way.
Yeah, you're right. Definitely knowing what the ethics policy is in your organization. But also, a number of people have told me over the years, if you have to ask if it's ethical, it
It's not.
probably isn't.
It's not. Your grandma's in the background going,
Right.
no,
I
honey,
was
don't
thinking-
do it.
Yeah. I mean, and I always think that if I have to question it, I'm going to err in anything in my life. I'm going to err on the other way.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I don't want my career going up in
Impacted.
smoke. I mean,
It can happen so quickly.
oh, yeah.
So quickly. And I've known of people who get into a position and they just assume that this was fine in my last role,
Yes.
so it's going to be okay here, and then they are let go. And they were not told. You
Right.
you don't necessarily always get that benefit. So if they don't have an ethics policy, it does bring up a good conversation.
Yep.
Because then it's like, well, if you don't have one, then really let's talk about what that looks like. Because this is some things that I might get offered in this role, and I need to know, am I within my rights to accept or not? Or how do you want me to pass that along?
And for example, I was reading the other day about one organization, and the hotel points went back into the organization, but the miles from the airlines they could keep personally.
Yeah, that's
Because it was kind of the repayment for having
That's
to be
how I feel.
away.
Yeah, that's
you know.
exactly how I feel. Yeah.
But some you get neither.
Right,
Some you
right.
could get both. But
That's right.
again, knowing, but the ethics. It's I call this a big small or a small big industry. It is huge. I mean, the millions
Yes.
of people who literally work around the world in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also, and the word I use, and I apologize if it offends anyone, is it's very incestuous. You know everyone, or that person's only a step away, or you met them 15 years ago, and guess what? You're now at another property
Yes,
with
yes.
them, and you just have to. I mean, we're all told don't burn your bridges, but in this industry, word gets around really, really quickly.
Yeah, it does. It does. And it's just not fair. It's just sad when it happens
Yep.
because it's usually quite innocent. So
No,
it is
not
sad.
always.
No. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
No, there's a
I'm
lot of
trying to be
people-
more polite here, but you're right.
No, there's a lot of people who try to figure out how they can get the most out of it personally. There's
Yeah,
absolutely.
You're absolutely right. And I have met those people, and I would just want to wring their neck because it's such a precious opportunity and such an amazing career choice, and to be given the ability to do it and paid to do it.
Yep.
I think there's a chapter in the book. It's you're not special. Your job is, and that's I don't know how else to sum that up.
Mm-hmm.
You're not special.
Yep.
Your job is quite special.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thoughts? Oh, you want to say something there?
I have something totally unrelated.
No.
No.
We'll
Okay.
do that afterwards. Nothing to do with Christina or the book?
Christina,
Oh, well, okay.
I understand
I have no idea
you're
where we're going on this.
very familiar with somebody named Steve.
Yes.
Okay. How has he adapted to living with a meeting planner, which is what I do?
Oh, that might be in a whole nother book.
Well, I'm
And you
working
are
on
He's
it.
right
working
about
on
that.
it. Yep.
You know, and the very first acknowledgement in my book is to my husband, who's been with me on this journey and this crazy career, who's held more than my heart, right? And for him to stick with me, and I've missed birthdays and holidays, and I've not been there all the times when I should. And, you know, there are times I'm out on the road and we can't really talk to each other. He understands that, but things can be devastating at the house. You know, he's dealing with stuff that I can't participate in as a partner. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how he does it. But I can say that I have the utmost respect for anybody who is married to an event planner.
Thank you.
And that's where you get the great. Steve the Great. That's where that comes from.
I mean, it is. I mean, we can be very hard to live with, but it's interesting how everyone turns to us, though, to fix things and take care of things.
Oh,
too.
absolutely. Well, no, that's another
Vacation,
fun story, too.
the
Yes,
50th
he used to
anniversary
call me
parties.
Griswold. He's like, oh, you're going to Griswold our vacation. I'm never going to get any time to do anything. And then one year I said, okay, I'm not going to do that. And then he was like, please, Griswold. He's like, I need my itinerary. What are we doing? I need to go do something. And I'm
Where are
like,
we going to go eat? It's like, I
Yeah.
tried to talk to you about that. You know, it's
No,
like,
to be fair, he's good at that too. He does contribute, but it is kind of, that was so funny. I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it. And it was noticed. It was fun.
yeah. And I don't think families even realize they do this to the person who's the planner. It's kind of by default that you're going to plan these things, including, honestly, and I've talked to enough people after it happened to me, the funerals. And it's like,
Yeah, you're right. This is natural. Like,
yeah, except you need to be able to grieve too, and it's an interesting role. But our families turn to us, or our immediate circle, whoever they are, to do these things because we do make lists and we do make sure things get done no matter what is going on,
Yeah.
and they forget that part of it when they are thinking we are way too over detailed.
Yeah.
You know, they forget that there's a lot they rely on for us to do that.
I
so.
totally agree. And I have to give my friends credit because I went to Europe in 2019, right before the pandemic, with my husband and our best friend. And they were hilarious. They're like, you're not doing anything. You're not calling for an Uber. You're not, we're going to make sure you get to where you need to be and you don't have to worry. And I was like,
Did you freak out?
I was like, I love you so much. I think I cried on the mountain. I was like, really? I don't have to do this. Like, because sometimes getting an Uber, especially in Europe, can be, I'm the language barrier nonetheless, but how many times can you say you're standing in front of the cathedral and which cathedral? And
I
it's
don't
just
know.
Like, it can be really stressful, right? So yeah, I was just like, oh my God, I love you guys so much. I think that lasted a couple of days, and I was like, okay, I'll call it.
Yeah.
I gotta have
Can't
some
do
control
this.
here. Yeah.
What are we doing for breakfast tomorrow morning? Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
Thoughts you all want to share? Thoughts, questions, things in the book that you read that you want to comment on?
I just had something in my head a second ago. I'm trying to remember. I think it was about, I really like the book because I feel like for someone who's very new into the events industry and I don't have a lot of the experiences that you've mentioned in the book, I know what I kind of would think about, I don't want to be like an unschooled planner or an uneducated planner. Like I want to take classes, and so I don't make mistakes that some of these people you mentioned made. And so that's one thing why I really enjoyed the book, if that made any sense. I hope it did. But
It did.
yeah, so I feel like a lot of new planners can really relate to this book or really get something out of it.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yay. That's really what I was hoping for.
Yeah.
Because you guys are the next generation, and I'm just trying to give you a little hand up to the level that we really need to operate at. I don't know that I'll see it in my lifetime, but that's my hope. That is my hope for the industry. At the end of the day, that's why I wrote the book. We've got to elevate ourselves. It's grassroots now.
And I think go back to what you're saying, there's no real traditional career path of you get your bachelor's and then you do
An
that
internship
specific
and-
position and which don't even exist apparently from what I've seen. And
I love entry-level positions that require 3 years of experience.
Oh,
What is
yeah,
that?
that's-
I know.
It's
Everywhere.
impossible.
The job descriptions are all over the place. They're all
Yeah,
over the
they
place.
really are.
And a lot of it is marketing, and you're going to be reporting to marketing, and yes, there are elements of that. But I dream of the day where we have an event department within the organization, and an event professional is running that department, and they have a seat at the table. That's what needs to
And some
happen.
organizations are there,
Some are
but
there.
Yeah.
Some are there,
but-
and that's great and wonderful. But across the board,
but we need to bring people in. Yesterday I told the class, I said, if you think you might be want to be involved in meeting and event planning while you are in college, you need to go get involved in student activities. You need to learn. I know you ran stuff, and you were involved in. Both of you were
Little bit.
involved in
Wish I did more,
sororities, and
but yeah.
what was that?
I was like, I did a little bit, but I definitely wish I got involved more with events in
Because
college.
that's how you're going to find
You have
out,
your
do
whole
you
life.
like it? Do you not?
Yeah.
But it does help coming out of school to already have some of that, setting up chairs and, marketing it and working backstage with, whoever the performers are. And just all of that will give you so much insight. Or running, on a lot of the college campuses, they hire students not only to work events and set up events, but also handling like scheduling of the buildings, especially the college center or student union or whatever. And I think that's really important because it will give you a clearer, because I've definitely seen people coming out of college who have no clue. I had one working with me. She's still in school? Yeah, she was. And I remember the first event I took her to, and I had actually spoken to her class and talked about how you will be on your feet,
yeah.
15 hours a day. You may get 4 hours of sleep. Getting
Yeah.
food and something to drink can be a challenge. Getting to the restroom can be a challenge. This is just the way it goes. And she went to the first event, which was a small but very stressful event. And at lunchtime, when everyone was served, she goes, well, when do I eat lunch? And I'm thinking, never, or at least,
Don't tell her,
at
though.
least from, a couple hours. She was so clueless
Yeah.
as to it's
Yeah.
not about you. It's
Right.
always about them.
Yeah.
And, you learn to
That's
pack
the reason
food and
they're-
you learn to, all that. But she was clueless why she couldn't sit down and eat lunch in the middle of the lunch. And I was like, yeah, no, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and I have a photo that I'll share with you guys, and I know your audience can't see it, and you probably
see
guys
it
are
on
very
the podcast.
happy. Yeah, but you guys will be very happy because it's the blister on my foot of having coming back after a year. And I sent this to all of my planning friends. I'm like, yeah, we're back live.
Yeah.
So you, feel
And I
free
wore
to
the wrong
ew.
shoes.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
no,
That
yeah.
looks painful.
Everybody, and so you
Yes.
guys can just Google blister. It'll probably
Yep.
be
right on the back of the heel
It might be
ankle.
that, yeah, and it's
Yep.
like, yeah, we're live. Yeah,
Yep. We're back to
we're
all
back.
this.
That's the true tale.
Totally believe it.
Were you finished with your?
Oh, yeah, I
okay,
was.
okay.
Anything else anyone else wants to share? I have no idea how long we've been talking, and I always tell people we have no time. We just
go.
we go
Just
until
go
we're
till we go.
done, and you can always stop and listen to the rest of it another time. So I'm not going to worry about
I just
this.
want to thank you so much for having me on the podcast and for writing my forward. That just meant so much to me. You have no idea. So
Wow.
yeah.
I was like, she asked me to write her
our
forward.
Paths have crossed, and I have a lot of respect for you, and your staff certainly has a lot of respect for you. And, and I'll share some things, but they speak very highly of you.
Well, and I
I don't know anybody who doesn't speak highly of her.
I don't think I know either.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
This one right there.
Why do you think I don't call him Steve the Great? Well, and I'm very blessed. Unfortunately, you don't get to meet Sophie and some of the other people who've come through the door, and Marianne, who's a trooper and other things and everything. But, I realize, and I think this is something that, my whole time of owning my own company, which is a lot more years than I realized until recently, like a few decades, not even a couple of decades now. And everyone who's worked in my office has been in transition.
Yeah.
They were high school students, college students, grad students trying to get into law school, some big career change, something like that. And they came and they spent time with me, and we tried to figure it out. And they always moved my company ahead exponentially. They tolerated it and with all the stuff that I have flowing out of my head at any given time. And, but, I realized last year that actually I consider part of the mission and the value statements of my company is to create an environment where people can learn and get experience and have the support, and I don't know if mentoring's the right word from me, but, to go to that next step. Like I know when they come, I don't get anyone forever,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool. And what Pauline tagged it in the spring, which meant a lot to me, was talent incubator.
Oh, I love that.
And that meant so much to me. I actually have it hanging in my office just to remind me, like, that I actually see that as part of my purpose. Is that
It is.
People, I mean, I started
That's
out
your
in
talent.
colleges, and so I always worked with students, and I'm sure that's where a lot of it came from and everything. But I mean, it's kind of sad. I see people come and go, but I've got attorneys. I have, these, directors of HR and huge corporations that worked for me, worked with me. I
Yeah.
try never to say for, and that's kind of a
I think you're
cool
going to get
thing.
a lot of resumes after this.
It is just,
I want to be like, oh, I wish I were just getting out of college. Be like, hey.
but some of them have been like people in their late 20s or 30s. Just there's some transition in their life, and they end up
Being
with me.
for a while. I love that. That's
and
great.
I'm good on it. It's
Yeah.
expanded my way of thinking, and they've taught me everything. I remember the first time Emily taught me how to listen to music on my computer 15 years ago. She's like, I tend not to put any noise on, and so it would drive them up the wall in my office because it'd be dead quiet, and I didn't even notice it, because too much going on up here. And they're like, or they, I had Post-its and everything everywhere, and they decided we were cleaning the office because some of this had to be on the computer, and it redid the filing system, just all the things, the social media, learning Zoom, all the things you guys teach me, at any given time. Like,
and they're constantly learning. They were saying how,
Yes.
on the way in, they were just saying, we're on top of all of the new technologies, and when I learn something, it's like I got to go back and learn it again because the new launch just came out. So it's awesome to see that. Yeah, that's you.
well, and
Talent incubator. I do love that.
That's
awesome.
And it just, it means a lot to me. They're way ahead of me on certain things, but, I always tell them, I mean, I've known for a long time my management style is, here's the end goal. Here's any parameters you need to know, legal, ethical, financial. Go do it. Let me know if you have questions.
Yeah.
And it kind of freaks people out when they first come to work with me that I'm giving them that much.
That's the best way to learn.
But I'm thinking if I micromanage them,
What are you doing?
I might as well have done it myself. And the
That's
whole
right.
idea of bringing other people in is so I can do the things only I can do.
Correct.
And so,
Yeah, good.
but I love it. I mean, every once in a while I'll hear from one of my people, I've got some in their 40s probably now. And they're like, I do this because, or, because of your office, or I got this job because you let me do this. And
Yeah.
it's like,
You made
okay,
a big difference.
I'm okay,
I love that.
small company, but, hopefully in
that-
its own weird way makes
In the
a big
nutshell,
imprint.
That's why
So.
it meant so much to me that you wrote my forward, because I knew that.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
So now you got to buy the book, people. No, you don't have
Yeah,
to,
you don't
but
have
hopefully
to.
you want to. So December 10th, right?
Yep, December 10th. Yep.
Amazon and probably some other places.
Mm-hmm.
And we will certainly let you know when the book comes out. So we'll make sure you get all the graphics and everything to them so we can get it up on social media and in the e-guide and
thank you.
everything. And I hope you enjoyed this one. Well, I hope you enjoy
did.
all of them. Did you two enjoy?
Yes.
Did you
Yes,
three
I
enjoy
did
it? Did
enjoy
you?
it.
I loved it.
You loved it. You loved it. So thanks so much for hanging out with us. Hopefully this was interesting. Hopefully you had some fun. We obviously did. We usually do. And you heard some things that will help you move forward in your career. So thanks so much for joining us. Don't forget, you can find, if you're not on the e-guide, let us know. We can add you to it. The podcasts are now, as I said, appearing on other things, and Instagram, Twitter, whatever your social media of choice is, we may be there. So thanks so much again, and we will see you on the, see you? I feel like I can see you. So anyway, next episode when it comes by. Thanks a lot.